Hi, my name is Sarah Fowl, and today I'm working on a commission. I don't usually record my commissions, but my client gave me the okay, and considering how busy I've been, I thought it would make for a pretty interesting video. So back in February, the lovely By Ghostface came to me with a commission request for her favorite couple from DC Comics, Flatline and Robin. I won't lie, at first I was a little nervous because I don't have a lot of knowledge on superheroes and comics, and knowing these characters are so incredibly beloved to Ghost, I was scared of going in blind to a fandom that I knew little to nothing about. But along with her commission request, Ghost also sent me a super extensive reference folder that I felt so much more comfortable accepting and completing her commission, knowing exactly what she wanted. For that reason, while it's true that these dolls were commissions, I have to give credit where credit is due. By Ghostface put in so much love, care, and attention to detail with her blueprints, for lack of better wording, that I want to say perhaps these dolls were almost like a collaboration. So if you love Flatline and Robin, and maybe DC Comics in general, please check out By Ghostface on their socials, which I'll also link in the description. Now let's get started on the dolls. We're going to be using Rebecca for Robin and Core Refresh Frankie for Flatline. Of course, we're going to need to do a reroot, so I do my usual reroot prep routine, which is chop off their hair, pop off the heads, remove the stubbles, and shrink the plugs. I started with Flatline because she had the easiest rooting pattern and hair colors. She'll be getting nylon in Angel White with Sanguine and Black Magic as accents for her hair streak. I didn't like how dull the original scalp paint was on Frankie, so I redid it myself before I began, and after that dried, I marked the correct placement for Flatline's hair part using a white gel pen. It's a little hard to see on camera, but I saw it in person, and that's what matters. And then I proceeded to reroot the head the same way I've been doing it for the past few months, which is scooping and sliding the hairs into their plugs. I believe this method was originally from Doll X Boudoir. I talk about this a lot more in depth in my Cyber Love Frankie video, or you can go to Opalescent Custom Dolls on Instagram for a more formal tutorial. With Flatline done, it's time for Robin's reroot. I honestly probably didn't need to repaint the scalp, but I did it anyways because I thought the black would be too dark, but in the end it didn't matter. Robin will be getting a custom blend of bittersweet and chocolate nylon throughout her head with Desire for her streaks and peekaboo color. I first started with Desire because it was the easiest to plug, and after some discussion with Ghost, I blended Desire with chocolate to make a nice transitional color into the brown. I also wanted to really quickly show how I blend hair together. I grab small equal parts of the hair colors I want, and then I just twist them together before spreading it flat across my finger and brushing the hair out. Then I just repeat until the hair is as blended as I want it to be. I picked up this trick from Draculija on YouTube where instead of blending all of your hair into a custom blend, you can just blend it little by little. It seems very obvious in retrospect, but it was news to me, and who knows, it might help you save your materials in the future, just like it helped me. But anyway, I completed Robin's reroot, and after both heads had the chance for their glue to dry, I reattached the head to the bodies and gave them a hot water rinse. I usually save the more intensive hairstyling for after the face, but I do like to do a light boil wash, or in Nylon's case, a hot water rinse, just to set the parts in place so I don't lose them later. And now we can finally start on the face-ups. This time I'm starting with Robin, as she has simpler makeup. Here's a closer look at what Ghost had in mind for Robin. I won't include all the reference photos as they're not mine, and don't worry, I have already asked Ghost for full permission to include her photos, but looking at everything together gave me a good idea as to what vibe I should be going for as I worked on Robin's face. One of the references Ghost gave me also showed that she wanted Robin to have quite round, almond-shaped eyes, at least in comparison to Flatline, so I especially kept that in mind as I sketched her features. I think it was also really helpful that Rebecca's face sculpt already has a prominent lid or lash line in a similar shape, so all I had to do was just use it as a guide. For Robin's lips, the red I started with was way too bright and cool toned. I made sure to soften the color by using plenty of brown, orange, and a warmer red to get something that flattered the coppery base a lot more. Ghost reference also shows Robin with a sweet smile, so I used a dark brown liner to line her full lip crease. For Robin's makeup, I just needed to follow the reference picture as if I were to do makeup on a real face. Start with the lighter base color and then build up the opacity and point colors. In this case, I started off laying down the magenta before packing on the brighter red, and Robin's makeup also has gold accents, but as always, I save that for the later layers. With the first layer done, it's time to repeat and continue to build my lines and colors. If you notice slight differences in between what I end and start clips with, it's because with commissions, I send my progress over to my clients for their input. I'm quite lax on adjustments majority of the time because I only want to make something that my clients are happy to pay for, and of course I trust that my clients aren't making me wipe off or redo an entire face. I know what I'm capable of, I know what I can and can't do, and there is a mutual understanding between me and my client that I'm doing what I can to make sure that the both of us are satisfied with the outcome. Commission, TOS, logistics aside, I wanted to talk a little bit about this second layer of pastel. So, Ghost reference shows that she wanted Robin to have a rectangular, almost peanut-shaped lip, so I used a dark brown to contour her lips and emphasize the shape better. Aside from building on my previous colors, I also marked where I wanted the gold accents to sit on the next layer. Robin's design has edges, so I took the time to use a pen and mark on the paper towel where the red streaks in her hair were. I first started sketching in the edges using pencil, but the pigment just wouldn't stick. I think it's because MSC doesn't really apply well by the hairline, at least in the way that I spray it, so I decided to paint the edges on using wet pencil on a brush instead. I feel like I could get a lot more flowy lines this way anyway. Of course, I will warn you though that wet pencil is always a last resort for me. I feel like because it lays down so much pigment at once, it's really hard to get a good seal unless you're drenching the face in MSC, which is honestly not very safe or very cost efficient. So, always be sure to be more careful around areas where wet pencil was used, both while you work on the face and even when you're done with the face and have sealed it. I just think it's always better to be safe than sorry. We're now on Robin's final layer, so I'll start off with the lashes. As usual, I try to do the lashes first on this final layer so I can very gently correct any mistakes if I need to without badly messing up the rest of the face. I also wanted to reference By Ghostface's art style a bit too, so I added 2 short strokes of downturned lashes. After building up the rest of the face, it's finally time to add sparkles. I used my Pearl X pigment in Sparkle Gold on a dry brush to lay down a light dusting before I used it on a damp brush for some more concentration. I then used a clean brush and my kneaded eraser to lightly pick up any stray bits of pigment. And with her catch lights, Robin has finally come to life. After getting Ghost's approval and sealing in Robin's face, it's now time for Flatline's face up. Once again, I took my time to fully absorb the reference photos provided as I worked on her face. I won't lie, this face was a bit of a challenge. The more intricate makeup is one thing, but I think coming from Rebecca's mold into Frankie's mold threw me in for a loop. Rebecca has so many waypoints on her face alongside her molded lash line that Frankie's face felt very bare and flat in comparison. I tried my best to get everything looking as symmetrical as I could, but man, this sketch probably took me a lot longer than it should have. That's another reason why I usually don't mind having a client give me micro adjustments, because after staring at a face for so long, all the details both melt together and stick out like a sore thumb at the same time. It's nice to have a second opinion so I know what really needs to be fixed versus what I'm just spending far too much time focusing on. Anyway, now that we're on pastels, I laid down a vampy magenta base color to get her lip shape down. Knowing that Flatline's makeup is going to be quite complex, I make sure to clean up my shapes and excess pastel. I usually cut this part out because I find it redundant, but I think having clean lines of pastel make a huge difference in the visual clarity of a face. That's not to say that you need to have sharp lines. I'm just making sure to control the blurry lines of pastel so that it shows intention. After laying down a base lilac for Flatline's eyeshadow, I go in with shades of magenta to complete her eye look. And of course, laying down pastels will buff out your pencil lines, but you can go back in and build up those lines again. And finally, I tried my best to lay down some white pastel for her skull makeup. I really took the time to pack on as much pastel as possible to give it a fighting chance, but MSC ended up eating it anyway, so. Once again, we're back to building up colors. At this point, I was nearing the end of my MSc can, and those who watch my videos can probably predict what I'm about to say next. Most of the lighter colors just would not stick, so I had to turn to wet pencil on a brush to get the job done. Knowing Flatline has a deeper magenta in a heart shape on her lips, I sketched out the shape first so that I could more cleanly apply my pastels these next few layers. Similar to Robin, aside from using some white pencil to mark where I wanted the sparkle to sit later, it's all just building color. Now, clearly the white pastel from my usual pastel set wasn't working, so I brought in the big guns, Pan Pastel in Titanium White. I've seen a few doll artists use this on their dolls, and honestly I've been a bit hesitant to buy one of these myself because it's just so much pigment and product, but I felt like at the very least white would be a useful color to have, especially considering the little stick of white pastel that I do have isn't very pigmented to begin with. It worked really well, though, so I'm glad I picked it up. We're now on the final layer, and unfortunately I ended up doing a lot of it off of camera because I felt like I really needed to focus on both the lashes and the skull lines. But basically, the pigment once again wasn't sticking, so I went in with wet white pencil on a brush to paint in the lines. For Flatline Sparkle, I used some Vallejo Metal Medium as a base before dusting some Pearl White Pearl X pigment on top. And with her catch lights, Flatline has now come to life. After sending the final result over to by Ghostface, Flatline had a few more adjustments so that she'd better match Robin, which I'll just throw up on screen right here. With the girls fully sealed, they were sent off to Seraphell's salon off camera, where they got their hair and nails done, and a final coat of high gloss varnish over their lips. And here's the final look for Flatline and Robin. Along with her references, Ghost also gave me some background info and fun facts that I used to influence my own styling. Flatline, or Nika, likes K-pop, a girl after my own heart, so I styled her kind of like a K-pop idol, albeit maybe a little dated compared to the current generation of K-pop. I also thought it was super cute that she liked to draw, so I gave her a little notebook as her accessory. As for Robin, or Damien, I really like the idea of her wearing a big coat or a jacket, and always Jade's pieces were in the perfect colors for her. Damien is also a sweetie pie who loves manga and animals, so I gave her a little Hachiware to hold. But yes, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I appreciate By Ghostface so much for coming to me and trusting me with her vision for these dolls, as 90% of the time my personal dolls are just versions of Monster High characters in different concepts or makeup. So Flatline and Robin were a really fun creative practice for me. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't know much about DC Comics or superheroes in general, so as a guest in someone else's house, I can only hope that I did Nika and Damien justice. I appreciate you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one, whenever that may be. Bye.